Welcome to the Voices of Young People podcast, brought to you by Springtide Research Institute. In each episode, we hear directly from young people as they respond to our research and share about the issues impacting their lives. As sociologists and researchers, we see a new story unfolding for young people, one that moves beyond traditional institutional boundaries and requires careful attention to the inner and outer lives of emerging generations. At the intersection of being and becoming, it's the Voices of Young People.
Oh my God, yeah, I've heard so many stories of people coming to Belmont as a commercial voice major or as a songwriting major and then quickly learning that they are not good after hearing everyone else, that they were good in their hometown, but not in Nashville anymore. Yeah.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Voices of Young People podcast. I'm Dr. Josh Packard, your host, the Executive Director of Springtide Research Institute. As you know, every week in this first season, we're digging into some of the research findings from our newest report, Belonging, Reconnecting America's Loneliest Generation, by hearing firsthand from people in our age range that we're interested in here, 13 to 25-year-olds, and how they sort of experience and have felt some of the research findings come to life in their own experiences. Today, it's Jackson Campbell. Jackson, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Jackson Campbell. I'm 19. I'm a sophomore at Belmont University in Nashville, Tennessee. I grew up in Greeley, Colorado. Yeah.
Well, Jackson, thanks for joining us on the show. I think that these stories are incredibly important and really powerful. I mean, there's something about hearing how this shows up in people's lives that actually makes the sort of numbers come alive, come off the page a little bit, makes those qualitative interviews, rounds them out into a real person. And as you and I were discussing, one of the really key findings from our study is in this, it's sort of paradoxical, right? Because we think of teenagers and young people as being super connected because, of social media and they're on their phones a lot. But the data suggests that they're actually sort of lonely rather, and isolated. I want to get into, ultimately, I want to spend some time talking about how we get out of that. But maybe, you've moved halfway across the country for a university, so into a place where you didn't know anybody, presumably, or very few people. And so I'm wondering, have you experienced any of that loneliness, isolation in your own life?
Oh, for sure. I mean, when you first came to me with the studies that you've done in different things, I was caught off guard for a bit, just like you said, that young people are feeling isolated or more lonely rather than other generations. And like you said there, the social media, I was like, there's no way that there's people that feel this distant because we're so connected with social media. But I started to think about it a bit, and I feel like everyone, especially on our generation, has major feelings of loneliness and isolation. And when I moved to Nashville, I definitely experienced that my freshman year. I went in. Belmont has a great program to get you in the groove and get you connected with people. And probably without that, I wouldn't be with my same group of friends that I have now. But there was a time there when I moved to Nashville, and those first three or 4 weeks, that first month really, it was hard trying to connect to people, and that just might be with the location change. But even with people in our age group, it's hard to reconnect with, or start new relationships when you're going to college after having such close relationships with people in high school. So it's kind of maneuvering what people you want to prioritize over other people, especially in college, because you have to prioritize relationships with other people because you're meeting so many people every day. Like I was just meeting basically the whole campus every day, just trying to figure out who do I want to choose to be my friends, my quote unquote best friends, I guess. So it was kind of a selection process, which sounds terrible, and that's not really what it was, but it kind of felt like that at least. And but there was definitely times in there where I was like, feeling very isolated, feeling very lonely without people, for sure.
And you're, Jackson, I know you a little bit, you're really outgoing. So this idea that you would show up on campus and start trying to meet the whole campus is not surprising to me. I imagine that those, even in the middle of all that, as you're sort of also feeling the loneliness at times, I imagine that for somebody who doesn't have that naturally outgoing personality like you do, that would be even harder.
Oh,
You know, maybe,
100%. I mean, we have these things at Belmont. It's called our TT group. It's Towering Traditions. Every freshman group has them. So you go in, and it's kind of your orientation group. They have like 8 to 10 people in these groups, and you kind of hang out with them every day for like 8 hours for a whole week.
mm,
And so that's kind of your first forced group of friends, really. And that's where I found one of my best friends, Jana. That me and her clicked in that group, and everyone else, we're not super close anymore, but me and my friend Jana, me and her are really close. And she I would say is more of a introvert in some regards. And I kind of, we kind of clicked together just because I was super extroverted and she was sort of introverted. And so we kind of, she could do what I couldn't do and I could do what she couldn't do. So I think that's what clicked. But yeah, people who aren't as outgoing and introverted, which is completely fine, but they definitely struggle more, I think, for sure.
I think it's so crucial that, you know, you were talking about of that whole group of people that you spent so many hours with in that first week. You know, we get this really key insight there, which out of that, you know, you pointed to that as like a place where you first started developing a sense of belonging at Belmont. But it was just one relationship that endures. And like, it's amazing how little it takes to get, you know, it's both amazing how little it takes to create that sense of belonging, which is totally confirmed in our own data. But also it makes it even sort of more heartbreaking that so many people don't have it, which means that they don't even have that like one or two key relationships that can sort of get you through it, which are, you know, to not get you through it like it's a thing that we all have to experience, but that sort of makes you feel like you have your tribe or your group of people.
Right. Yeah.
It's super interesting. Well, Jackson, and these points of transition are always, you know, whether you're going to college, you know, or if you're just graduating from high school and going to the workforce, I think these are really important reasons why we see this, we see heightened levels of isolation and loneliness among 13 to 25-year-olds, because they're going through more transitions in many ways than almost any other age group. I mean, this is a period of time when you're leaving the home for the first time for many people, graduating from different institutions, maybe even choosing for the first time where you're going to go to church, if you're going to go to church, if you're going to have a relationship with a religious institution, et cetera, et cetera. So there's starting a career, like there's all of these big transitions, right? And not all of them come with like this baked in, you know, orientation group of towering traditions that come along with it, right?
Yeah.
And so you got to find your own way.
I didn't think about that. That's really interesting to think about that this age range probably has basically all of the big life transitions in it. Yeah, you're going from middle school to high school and then high school to college. Yeah, there's so many transitions within that age group that pushes you away from people for sure.
Right. You get the sort of these disrupted relationships over and over. And that's one of the things that at first we were surprised to find, but then it started to make sense to me, was that because of all the turbulence that comes with, you know, peer relationships in these years, that can cause a lot of, you know, instability and drama, but also because of these transitions where these relationships get disrupted for reasons that are often outside of your control. What the data kept showing was that for a real sense of belonging, to sort of stave off the negative consequences, which there are negative consequences on the spiritual side, emotional, physical health side of loneliness and isolation, it was really relationships with trusted adults that helped do that. That adults play this really key role. Sort of shockingly to me, it was 1/3 of the young people in our study that had one or fewer trusted adults in their lives that they could talk to. And yet we saw the protective effects that if you have 2 or 3 or 4, or if you can get to the magic number of 5, you know, then there's basically all the feelings of loneliness and isolation and the negative consequences and stress go away. So I was wondering if you've had, you know, part of what I want to talk to you about today is this, like, have there been adults that have played that really crucial role? And like, how did they come to play that role in your life?
Yeah. when I think of adult that's not my parents that play that crucial role, of course my parents would, I would count them as two. But if as regards to someone who's not my parents, I would probably think of Jeff Jeff Neal. He, me and him, he runs the Refuge, which is now, man, I'm blanking on the name.
Northern Colorado.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Yeah,
The skate park itself.
Yeah. So he runs that, and he would bring up a bunch of guys for snowboarding, to go up snowboarding during that season. So I started snowboarding with Jeff when I was, I think, around 13 or 14, and went all the way until I was probably 17 or 18. And every season we would go up with a group of guys, probably 6 or 7, and girls were allowed to come as well, but they never did. Just a group of guys, and we would all go up there in one bus and snowboard and have a fun day together. So that was my first kind of connection with Jeff Neal. And how that kind of came to fruition was through my parents. And I'm thinking about all these different relationships. I was thinking about this morning, and how I achieved all of those relationships with different adults, and they all stemmed from my parents. So like, let's say my parents would introduce me to this other adult, Jeff Neal, and then I would go, and then I would feel comfortable to have a relationship with Jeff because my parents pushed me towards that. So I was trying to think of an adult that I personally sought after and had some, and I could go to talk to, and that would probably be my English teacher in high school, and his name is Thomas Frazier. He's one of my favorite people in this world. He's so smart. He's ridiculous. He was my AP Lang teacher in my my junior. I've had him for all 4 years, but he was my AP Lang teacher for junior and senior year. And I don't really know exactly how we connected super well, but me and him really just attached to each other. And I feel, and I did feel like that I could go up to him with any issue I had or any problem I had, school related or non-school related. I was just super comfortable with talking to him about anything really. And so we would also hang out after school hours. So me and him and a group of friends would also go up to hike around, and we went up to Estes Park a couple of times. So a couple of those relationships, like Jeff and Thomas Frazier, those are two different relationships, one stemming from my parents and then one stemming from myself. And I do feel like those are they have the same outcomes, and I can talk to either of those people at any point and feel comfortable. But I just thought it was interesting that Thomas Frazier, he was probably one of the only adults that I could think of that didn't stem from my parents.
Yeah, that's a really good. That's an important insight and something I hadn't thought of yet, Jackson. That we see a dramatic drop off between having no trusted adults in your life and having just one or two. Makes a tremendous impact, which I think that's obvious. And we never stop to really dig into like how or why that mattered. We saw the effects and we're like, well, clearly that makes sense. But I think you're hitting on this really good point, which is it's important to have one because one leads to others. That this sort of becomes this, like, it becomes normal for you in many ways to have a relationship with an adult as a teenager, say in your case. So that's not strange anymore. And they introduce you to other adults that you can trust and count on because they're acting as that like liaison to do those things. When you're thinking about this sort of sense of belonging that you got by going, week after week to ride in the van on the way to the slopes and back, Jeff did more presumably for you than just drive the van. Like, what else was going on there?
Absolutely.
That sort of made you feel that sense of belonging there.
So we would, he would of course drive the van up, and we would all probably sleep for the most of the way up. But there would be a time where all of us would wake up and we'd all start chatting. So that's where a lot of the connection came from, was us literally just talking. We had so much time on our hands, either while going down the slope or driving up. We had 3 hours just to talk. So all of us guys would just we would literally just chat and talk about anything and everything. And that's really where that trust stemmed from. I found that Jeff could talk about anything and come up with a fluent and beautiful answer to anything that I asked, or he just felt so wise to me. So I guess it was the vulnerability of him and myself that led me to trust him more. Yeah.
I think that's that's so crucial, Jackson. I think for a lot of people who are listening to this podcast are going to be people who work in, in capacities that put them into contact with young people on a regular basis as part of their job. So whether they're teachers or youth ministers, or, they're doing work on college campuses or whatever, to hear that, like, there's no program here. Like, it's not like Jeff got in the van every Saturday with like a list of questions and like, icebreaker activities and stuff like that. I mean, you're saying like he just showed up and waited for you to wake up, and he was mostly just there and ready when you were ready to talk.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which I think is just really, it's a thing that I know I've had a lot of friends who are youth ministers, for example, and they always feel this need to program everything. And a lot of times I want to be like, well, like, this is effective too. Like, all the really meaningful, adults that were in my life were the result of these relationships. And it sounds like that's what you're saying too. And on the teacher side, like, I remember high school being like super tumultuous at various times, and in like long periods of stability too. But there were these like seasons in high school when it's like I would go almost instantly from feeling like I had loads of friends and everything was great to like, oh my goodness, I like either I said or did something I shouldn't have, or people thought that I did, or whatever. I mean, that's how high school worked. But the adults, like, they never left. You know what I mean? Like, I always felt like you said you had that teacher for 4 years. I had a similar experience with a teacher, and she was actually in my wedding when I got married, in my 20s, because she was that important. And that was always so important for me. Like, oh, I know Jean will I'm going to see her. I see her every day. For every year. And I know that, like, she's going to hold me accountable, and she's going to do all the teacher things, but she's also just going to be this stabilizing force.
Yeah, absolutely. I had the same kind of thing where it was kind of up and down with relationships. And I thankfully had this solid group of friends throughout high school. Us six, we really stuck together throughout the whole thing. Somehow, I have no idea. But there would be weeks or even months where things would break apart, and we would have to rekindle that relationship because one of us messed up or said something that we shouldn't have or something. Dumb high school drama. But really, Mr. Frazier, he kind of counseled our group through it all. Like, if any of us had a problem with each other, all of us are super close with Frazier, so we would all just like kind of talk to him about it, and he was kind of the counselor of our group, almost, it felt. So it was never weird for us to have a relationship with him, but it felt good that we knew that he would never leave because he's our teacher, and
he can't leave, right?
Like, he can't. He's under contract. Come on.
Sociologically, what you're sort of explaining and what we're talking about is the importance of networks, right? That not every point in your network is equally valuable. Some of them play these like what we call nodes, meaning that they're sort of like super powerful points in your network that connect you to other people, like your teacher holding, counsel with your entire group of friends at various times, and doing it in, obviously there are damaging and bad ways to do that, but doing it in this case in a very productive and adult way. Your parents playing the node of that network that connects you to other people, and that's a really cool thing I had not fully thought about until we started talking, was how adults are networked in a young person's life in ways that can be super powerful. So thank you for that, Jackson. I appreciate you taking the time and just telling us a little bit about what it's like to be you and to be a young person. These things are one of the weird things about working with young people is that the people doing the work are often so far removed for obvious reasons from that age, and things change so quickly. So your insights here are super helpful to help bring this to life. So I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
Visit springtideresearch.org to hear more voices of young people and to download our latest research report, Belonging: Reconnecting America's Loneliest Generation. Sign up for our newsletter and be the first to learn about our upcoming research and ways to take action in your own communities. Today's show was produced by TJ Birnbaum with original music by high school student Christian Unthank. Special thanks to our guests today and all the young people whose perspectives and insights make our research possible. Remember to find us on social media at We Are Springtide and share your own story with the hashtag ShowUpForYoungPeople. Thanks for listening.